Hi, yeah, welcome to the Duke of Doom, section 17. We're trying to keep these sections down to 15 minutes now so we can fit 4 of them in a 45-minute tape, hopefully. Hope I got it right. So, these guys are scheduled for the Helios. Now, how are they going to avoid that? How are they going to avoid certain damnation to the Helios? No way does it look like they're going to get around this. Now, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if these guys are able to repent. Maybe some of these people will say they don't want the chip. They don't want the lobotomy. They'll just take the mark in the hand, and there's one scenario I thought of where people chop off their hands. Jesus said, if your right hand offend you, cut it off. It is more desirable for you to enter into heaven without a hand than it is to be cast with a hand into hellfire, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. Now, you see that the thing is that what happens when people normally get into a fire situation? Now, this is a very serious topic and very difficult to talk about here. I'd say this with the utmost seriousness and with a great respect for those poor people who have suffered that. Well, you all know that the burn is, of course, the most damaging injury you could possibly have, apparently. Well, maybe there are some more, but it certainly is catastrophic once you get a severe burn. However, if you're subject to something of a great flame, even if you're some distance from it, the victim, perishes simply because their blood begins to boil. Now, this was the case with the fiery furnace, where Nebuchadnezzar wanted to throw in Brother Shadrach, Brother Meshach, and Brother Abednego. And they said, look, you know, God is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, but if he doesn't, we're still not going to bow down to this idol. We're still not going to go through this religious thing you're doing. Nebuchadnezzar probably thought he had discovered some new religion because Daniel interpreted this marvelous dream he had about the statue. You know the story about the statue of it was of a man with a golden head and arms and a torso of silver, a belly of brass, and hips and thighs of iron, and legs of iron. And then the feet section consisted of a mixture of both iron and miry clay. And then a stone was cut out of heaven and fell on the 10 toes. And the whole statue was destroyed. It broke in pieces and fell down. And that's not all. The winds blew all the little pieces away. Now, the interpretation was also given. And we found out, and I go into this in more detail in my book, Rescue, Volume 2. The title Rescue was Nebuchadnezzar's idea, by the way. Of course, because he got saved after that. And he himself might be a great saint, or an elder even, who is probably out there with many others of the cloud of witnesses helping the brothers and sisters. But Nebuchadnezzar even has written, has an entry himself in the Bible, in which he says, "Verily, God is a God that delivereth," and rescueth, I mean. And so that's where I got rescue from. Now, that's where I got the idea for the title. Now what happened is that Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom was the head of gold. But then after gold, the lesser noble metal, silver, was the dual kingdom of Media and Persia. The Medes were used by the Persians to do their battle and their dirty work for them. And so they had a coalition government. And hence the right hand was stronger than the left hand. And the belly of brass was Alexander the Great. Still pretty noble metal. And then the baser metal of iron. Very strong, though. Consisted the part that the statue was standing on. Then it got a mixture of clay and iron, and many interpret that to be a mixture of dictatorship and democracy. They will never blend. So necessarily in our time, you see that dictatorships continue to emerge, even though democracy is becoming very prevalent now. It may mean also an indication towards the end time, of course, and then there are 10 toes. I told you so. You'll get a big kick out of that one. Anyway, they're going to stub their toes on a rock because but before I get into that, I have to mention that I've also discovered in my travels that there in fact is already one of the dominant groups that are trying to take over the world. This has always been happening ever since Nimrod shot the arrow into the air, or whatever he did, when they built the Tower of Babel. And I found at least 4 or 5, maybe even more, different groups, with the idea that they're going to be the ones that take over the world. It's always these pagan groups that want to do this kind of stuff. One of them actually earlier that didn't get anywhere was Hitler and his Teutonic pantheon of gods and goddesses, the high priest of which was apparently something like Wagner, you know. Anyway, you see, the thing is that this hell, this Helios, was reserved for the angels that left their first estate. It really wasn't supposed to be for human beings. It's a very difficult place for a human being to get stuck for a couple of minutes, let alone however many years it may be. We think maybe it might be an eon, which is 1,000 years in Greek, an eon, but it might be more than that. It's long enough to seem forever, but it's not like the preachers say. They're using their imagination. A lot of these institutionalized preachers are talking about hell being forever and ever and ever and ever. That's an English term. It's in the Bible, which is translated to many forms of Greek, but one of the more reliable ones, not the Egyptian Greek, talks about the term as forever, meaning ainon or eon, meaning from what we could tell probably 1,000 years, but we don't know for sure about that. Anyway, I'll tell you, I guarantee you, and this is my personal opinion, that even the most rebellious of them and the gutsiest of them, and the one who fancied that he was strong and overbearing and so great and powerful, finds himself in hell. I'll tell you what, after the first 30 seconds in those green flames or whatever they are, he's going to be screaming his lungs out just like all the rest. And they're going to be praying to God. You think, like they said, there's no atheists in a foxhole? Buddy, somebody's been neglecting your education. Basically, the real scenario goes, there are no atheists in hell. Neither is there any pagan. They're going to be crying out to Yahweh, the only true God, the God of all gods and flesh, and to Jesus. And they're going to be crying out like that. Humans and devils and fallen angels, until kingdom come, which might be the eon, or it's definitely going to be the kingdom of God touching down on earth. A city, and this city also can fly. There's nothing that says that it's going to be anchored just simply in one place and remain there forever. It might even fly to different parts of the galaxy, but that's for us to find out later on. Okay, so these folks are going to be slain before him. Those who were like that, who didn't want Jesus to be the ruler, definitely they will all be slain. Not one marked man, woman, or however young they are will survive. And I don't know, of course it remains to find out what age is the minimum age that they can receive the mark. You know, the devil is so much into destroying children with all these pedophiles and everything, and all the other things they do. They've made this big case about all these Catholic priests, how they've abused children and things like that. And brother and sister, you couldn't even dream of what abuse would be until you discover what kind of things they do to children who have the misfortune to be in those pagan communities, in those witchcraft communes they have all over the place. I mean, those are the people that invented the term abuse. Abuse is too good a word for that, what they're doing. Anyway, so you see, but here in this book, we are discussing the chance of people having something that actually is surgically done or mechanico-surgically done, some form of microsurgery or something, in which they have a computer chip as a part of the mark of the beast, that it would be put in their forehead or somehow be lodged in such a way as to inhibit the frontal lobe, which is the area of higher reasoning, where they can lobotomize a human being and still have it work, but no longer as a reasoning, choosing person. That means that kills their power to choose right there. So the minute that happens, well, there you go. There's your explanation. They won't be able to choose. Unless it's going to be some other thing, like maybe a tattoo. But brother and sister, I've been witnessing. I've been traveling the earth like an itinerant monk, a wandering witness, from country to country, something like, I know, from anywhere from 11 to 17. I lost count. You know, I've covered quite a lot of territory twice around the earth, witnessing to a large number of people for over 15 years or more. Now I can tell you from my experience, even now, people are so lobotomized, quote unquote, that they have no ability to choose. I even encountered one person who wanted to choose but couldn't. His mouth froze. He said, "Oh, I can't say no prayer." And he walked away. Now, what's that all about? Well, I'll tell you what it's about. Somehow, the enemy already knows how to do a lot of damage to the mind, psychologically. Okay, let's take a break in the breakers right here.